Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of the Kids From It podcast. I'm TJ Whitehead, Powers Taken Not Given, joined by my great friend Kai. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We have got a hell of an episode ready for you guys today. Well, ready is a strong word. We kind of threw it together over the last hour or so, but it's something that Kai has brought up before and something that's someone who's very near and dear to my heart, Pastor Greg Locke. So, Kai, what can you tell us? Because you've met Greg Locke or been in the congregation with him before. So what can you tell us from what you've observed from this guy?
It was a long time ago. It was nothing recent. He came to one of the churches we went to in Missouri, Landmark, probably circa 2007, 2008. And he was big into youth ministry at the time, and he did a lot of youth conferences, but he would do lock-ins and stuff like that.
What is a lock-in? Lock-in? Like they name it after himself?
No.
I don't think, okay. That'd be clever.
Where people drop off their kids and they're extra supervised, and it's just nights of playing games and preaching and all that kind of fellowship and that kind of thing. And so I swear we went to a couple of his, and then I think one time we went to his church in Tennessee. But I just remember him being wild and loud in your face and yelled a lot. And he was definitely a creepy youth pastor, I feel like. Not all youth pastors are creepy. There's my plug.
Oh, he was specifically a youth pastor back then.
I think from what I remember, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If not, he connected with teenagers very well, and it seemed like he was.
You mentioned that Greg Locke was, fiery and loud and obnoxious, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty standard. Why would he stand out more than anybody else? But when you see Greg Locke, you understand why. I can see why. We'll have some videos for you guys of this dude. If you're not familiar with him, I'm sure most of you are. But he's it's so over the top and ridiculous. There's something with I know a lot of people probably aren't going to understand or agree with me on this one, but I don't particularly care for any type of preacher speak. I've never really liked it. A lot of people do, whether they're religious or not. They enjoy the cadence and the tone, and there's different types of preacher speak. You have Greg Locke style preacher speak. You have Martin Luther King style preacher speak, and those can all be very effective in a lot of ways to get your message across. I'm not saying it isn't, but for me, I just find something transparently inauthentic about preacher speak. That if I get up here and I said, the Lord says you got to rise up. Yeah, I can get a lot of people excited about that. But
you do it so well.
Well, look, I mean, you could probably do it too. If you hear it enough, it's very easy to mimic. And Greg Locke is up there saying, I don't care what they have to say. It's just all right, man, you don't go home and talk to your wife that way or your friends that way. And when I see you at the end of church shaking hands, you're speaking to me. It's what's up with the performance? If this is all about the word of God and the message, yeah, I guess every time you're in public speaking, it's a performance. I understand that. But whenever I try this is 95% of what I am in real life. I try to make it as conversational as possible. It just seems more genuine that way. I don't know if I'm just openly showing that I'm putting on a performance. I think you kind of lose a bit of the authenticity. But that's just me.
I don't want to be yelled at for an hour and a half. No, thank you. Don't yell at me.
Yeah. It's
and they just yell, and you're just are we done? And then people are like, amen. And you're like,
but you know what? You didn't fall asleep. That's that. You didn't fall asleep. They'd
sure they'd call you out.
Yep. And you're loud enough, you're going to keep that audience engaged. And it helps too if you have charisma and you're funny, which I got to admit, Greg Locke does have buckets of charisma. I got to hand it to him. And he can be funny. I can see how people find him funny. I don't particularly find him all that funny, but I can see it. I can definitely see it. Why he was seen that way. Did you ever hear, what was his name? Jack Scott. Did you ever hear Jack Scott preach? Yeah. Oh, you did? Okay.
Miles Anderson?
Yes. Yeah. I found him to be the same way. I found his style was didn't he go to jail? Jack Scott?
Yeah, for raping children.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if that was him or not. There's so many to choose from, but
I know, you're not wrong. I think it was him though. But because we used to have, remember how like Maranatha and Hyles Anderson and Lancaster would have all these girls groups like come and sing at churches and they'd like tour and stuff. Same with,
I don't remember that. No, that might have been after me.
No, well, we used to have Landmark used to have them all the time, like Hyles whatever. And so we had girls from Hyles Anderson stay with us. We had all kinds of IFB college groups stay with us. Sorry, yes, Jack Shop. Anyways, very familiar.
Yeah, he was like Jack Hyles' son-in-law, I believe. I believe he was Jack Hyles' son-in-law. I saw him, I was going to Tabernacle at the time, and we went to a youth conference. Is it Louisville? Where Jack Scott was, or was he in Indianapolis? No, it wasn't. It was definitely Louisville. Yeah, so maybe he was just there. It wasn't his home church, or because he's based in Indiana, I'm pretty sure. And we went there, and I heard Jack Scott preach, and I will say Jack Scott was entertaining as hell. When I remember like enjoying it and say, oh wow, when I saw him on the list, I was like, all right, that's gonna be a fun sermon. That's gonna be fun, and it was. And I think he was the first guy that really clicked for me the smoking hot wife genre, like a trope that happens, because he said it all the time. And then I started noticing a lot of youth and for those of you who don't know what I'm referencing here, we'll have a Greg Locke example of this too. In one of the videos, he goes down the smoking hot wife route. But whenever like Jack Scott would tell teenagers that, hey, listen, it's worth the wait for sex because I waited and look, I got the reward of this smoking hot wife. I'm going to go bang her when I go home tonight. Isn't that exciting? And all the kids get all riled up thinking about sex and everything. But this is a ploy that youth pastors use all the time. And now that we're adults, a lot of us make fun of it because I can't imagine that most of them still do it today because that's kind of weird. But things were different back in those days.
I don't know. I feel like weirder things have happened. I'm sure that there are still people in youth groups that are like, oh, my smoking hot wife.
Yeah, you think they'd be self-aware enough to know that it's kind of a joke. Now, maybe not though. Greg Locke.
Anyone in the IFB has any kind of self-awareness.
Yeah, that's true. If you stick around in it, I guess you can't. It's difficult to hold on to that. But what did you know about? Did you know anything personally about him? Like when you saw him, but did you ever hear from him again before he became? Because this would have been back in what, early 2000s? Yeah. And what did you think when you first saw him getting big on social media and everything?
I was just like, oh yeah, I know him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not like on social media really anyways. But then like in the last year or two, I saw a video and I was like, what is he saying? I think it was when he was talking about like the autistic kids and how like that's demon possession and whatever. And I was like, oh no, absolutely not. Like, I don't remember him being like, obviously, like when you listen to him preach, he's like loud and annoying and obnoxious and yelling and whatever. And sure, he has charisma, but I remember like in person, like one-on-one, he was super chill, like was not this wild, crazy person that he was when he was on stage. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's something with so I mentioned a lot that I didn't know I shared that already. It's a little too early. I mentioned a lot that a lot of people wondered why Donald Trump became so popular among like the IFB movement and conservative evangelicalism. And I was like, I'm not really surprised because he reminds me a lot of preachers that I saw during my time there, just in his affectation, in that, it's not only the bombastic speaking style, it's just this unwavering like belief in something that you just shove onto people, and I don't care if you disagree with it. This is right, and just bulldozing with you. It's like, that's going to be very attractive to a certain segment of the population. And Greg Locke falls right into that. And no surprise, he's a huge Trump supporter. Like, yeah, of course he is.
Greg.
I mean, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I
was just saying, Greg Locke.
Yeah, no surprise there at all. So we're going to go through a few clips of Greg Locke here, and they are all, each one is more entertaining than the last. Like, this guy is, there was one video I didn't include that I was thinking about it, but it's a video in which he talks about him getting kicked off of Facebook for God knows, like whatever bigoted thing he said back then. And he said something to the effect of, I'm just putting out a message to all my followers here on Twitter and let you know that I have been banned from Facebook. I had an account with 1.5 million followers. I always roll my eyes when people brag about their follower counts. Like, stop it. What is wrong with you? It's just like, are you a child here? It's just like this constant need for, you know what? Here's a good example of this. It's not the bragging about followers, but the humble bragging. That really gets me. Whenever you hear preachers talk about sin, it usually goes this way. So adultery is a sin. Adultery is bad. No one should do it. Here are the verses saying you shouldn't commit adultery. If you've committed adultery in the past, you can ask forgiveness. You can move on with your life. Just make sure you never do it again. That's basic setup for like how sin works every time, except one sin. There's one sin and that is not honoring the Sabbath, which is Saturday, not Sunday. Big pet peeve of mine. But anyway, they treat Sunday as if it's the Sabbath. And whenever you hear lessons about the Sabbath, it's always, listen, you need to make sure that you're not working on the Sabbath. God says to keep the Sabbath holy. Now, I have a very hard time not working. Like I'm always so busy and working so hard, and it's really difficult for me to like sit down and take a break. And like you're just trying to humble brag that you're a hard worker. That's all it is. If they never do that, could you imagine them doing that with any other sin? Like, oh yeah, lusting is bad. I struggle so much with lust. I'm lusting all the time. I've got to stop myself. No, but there's just like this ego that they insist on feeding. It's like, yeah, Greg Locke, that feeds right into it. But this one right here, this is something Kai mentioned about Greg Locke and witches. So let's see what he has to say here. Old Greg.
Good old Greg.
Heathens and Wiccans was who I got this letter from. And they're like, we just want you to know that you have disrespected us long enough. And they went this big old long diatribe. They're watching because they said they're going to be watching for me to apologize or they're going to put our church under a curse. So, you talk about the Satanists, you talk about the witches, you talk about the Masons, me. Call a ambulance. You got the wrong one. Every one of them heathens and Wiccans sending money to Lovey Elias and Passion Java anyhow. They all witched up together. Every last one of them Satan worshipers. Anyhow, on the back, there was a picture of a ram and a pentagram. It said, you have to hold this picture of a ram up to the new moon so that we can see it and ask our forgiveness. Or the crops in your field shall fail. The blankety blank, 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 blank shall wither, and all of this other nonsense. So I'm supposed to hold up a ram to pull the curse off the church. I'm going to hold up his Bible and tell him a bunch of witches and heathens and Wiccans that we ain't going to back down. We're going to preach the word, and I'm going to have a good day under God's blessing. You can't curse what God's blessed. Shout Jesus in this house.
All right. I got to sneeze. So, Kai, what did you think when you saw that? That's probably not the one you were thinking of. I have another one, too. I have 2 or 3 witch videos. But what was your reaction? I don't think you've seen that one before.
First of all, I want to know why he's wearing this giant tiger on his shirt.
I didn't even catch what was that. Yeah, what is up with that shirt with the giant tiger? Yeah.
I have so many. You're a lion, I guess is what it is.
Yeah, he's the Lion of Judah. There you go.
He's so all over the place. Like, it's not, and he's like, I feel like he's skipping around stage and like tossing the microphone. And like, I feel like I almost need to listen to the whole thing because I'm trying to figure out who gave him this ram with a pentagram on a paper, and like they want to watch you hold it up to the moon to get forgiven.
Yeah. So he received a letter from a group of Wiccans and Satan worshipers saying that if they didn't hold up, on the back of the letter was a drawing of a pentagram and a ram's head, and he had to hold that picture up to the new moon. And I guess send them a video showing that he had done that. Otherwise, they would put a curse on his church. And first off, this story did not happen. I guarantee, I would bet everything I've owned, I bet my life that this story didn't happen. This is because it doesn't make any sense. First off, what was the threat? The threat was, we will put a curse on your church and all your crops will fail. Does this church own farmland? I have a hard time believing, like, what the hell does that even mean? I think he just kind of got carried away with the story. And so what?
Oh, I'm just saying, whew,
yeah,
crops will fail.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah, and he mentioned it's also he talks like there were Satanists and Wiccans. I don't know if you guys have ever met Satanists and Wiccans, but this is not their MO. Like that's not something that they do. I'm not a Satanist or a Wiccan, and in case anyone doesn't know, like Wiccans, they call themselves witches. I don't know if they say they gather in covens or whatever like that, but if you ever talk to them or read about what they're essentially like pantheist pagans, basically, that they kind of worship. I don't want to speak, out of turn here, but they like worship like the earth, and if they believe in magic at all, it's some sort of thing where, I don't know, you hope big enough and luck will be in your favor. It's nonsense. But anyway, but that's kind of what they believe, the Wiccans or whatever. But the Satanists, on the other hand, don't even believe in Satan. Like if you can find like the Church of Satan and read all of their tenets, and essentially Satan is a symbol. That they say that Satan is a symbol of rebellion against unjust authority. But by the way, we don't believe in him. They're all atheists. Like Satan's like, so the Church of Satan is just nothing but atheists. And so whenever you hear this shit about the Church of Satan or the Wiccans and they're casting curses on people, no, sorry, not real. It's not real at all. I've always been entertained by these type of stories because when I believed in them, I found them to be fascinating. That especially the Satan worshiper one, because it never quite made any sense to me why anyone, like, if you believe in God and Satan, why would you choose Satan? Like, who would actually do that? Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just agreeing with you.
Yeah, what could possibly be in it for you to be with a guy who the book says he's going to lose, right? We know this. Unless I guess you don't believe the Bible at all, but then why would you believe in Satan in the first place? I don't know. It just all kind of fell apart for me. Then when I found out that they don't actually believe in it, I was like, oh, okay, I got it. And if you can like read the Satanists, like they have like their own list of commandments or whatever, they're very good. The commandments are very good. Like, you follow them all, you'll be perfectly fine. There's no sacrifices or blood oaths or anything like that. But yeah, this is not the only time that Greg Locke talked about witches. I found another one. Let me see if I can run across it here. Unless you want to add anything else to that one, Kai, what do you think?
I can't with him. But I mean, like, his preaching style hasn't changed. I'll tell you that much. Like, he used to skip around and run from one thing of the stage to the other and like bounce around. A child with like sugar overdose. Yeah,
I've got some videos, and I don't know if this video is going to have him bouncing, but we will see some Greg Locke skipping around like a child. Yeah, this is he loves his job, folks. All right, let's see what he's doing here. This is another witch one.
Can you believe how stupid the media is? Here's what they say. Oh, we know why he's doing that. We know why he's calling out them 6 women, which they're not all women. Get that in your crawl. Because what's going to happen is he's getting out ahead of it, because them women that he's trying to call out, he's trying to intimidate them by calling them witches, because we believe he probably made sexual advancements and he's trying to get out in front of it before they burn the whole kingdom to the ground. No, I call them witches because they witches. Sexual advancements. Have you seen who I'm married to?
Here it is, smoking hot wife.
I got a healthy marriage up in my house. I ain't got no lust over no witch. I can tell you that right now. Sexual advances by hind leg. Keep your...
Okay, I just want to say, I'm predicting Greg Locke has made sexual advances with those women. That's just my guess here. That's if you ever see me come on this podcast and say, folks, you're going to hear some allegations from women saying that I've done inappropriate sexual advances. I'm going to let you know right now, it didn't happen. It's all nonsense. By the way, they are agents of Lucifer, just so you know, before this comes out here. So if you want people to believe you're guilty, act like that, because that is the guiltiest man I've ever heard. What do you think, Kai?
No, I think you're right. I think though, I want to say a couple years ago, I think he admitted that he had a relationship with someone in his church while he was married. I think that there was like I don't remember what year it was, but I remember hearing something about he like caught feelings for someone in the church and he like went before the church and confessed it or something like that. He's just so weird. Like he's like creeping around on stage, like he's not crouched down, but I felt like he was like hunched down and like, I don't know. I just can't with him. Like it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't like Greg Locke. There's just no words for him other than he's ridiculous. Like, but like he's so engaging. You can hear everybody hooping and hollering. And again, why are you saying like now you're basically like implying that you have a great sex life to a bunch of people? No one needs to know about that. That's not appropriate.
It's very important for people to know that these guys are getting laid. Like it's vital that you're aware of this information, you know. And also the fact that your wife is hot does not mean you won't cheat on her. I want to make that very 100%. Clear. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Some of the
beautiful people in the world get cheated on.
Absolutely.
And you can't be like, oh, there's not lust up in my house. Have you seen my wife?
So what? It's
Thank you.
It's kind of like a trope where people say that, oh, you know, this guy's with this really attractive woman and he's sleeping, like he cheated on her with, you know, a troll of some type. You know, it's like, what's going on here? And I remember someone talking about this. It's like, well, the way it is for a lot of guys is if you had $100 in your pocket and you saw a $5 bill on the ground, would you get it? Of course you would. That's how a lot of guys are. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's like the quality doesn't, it's like that. They're horny and they can't control themselves. Now, with the situation you mentioned with his wife, I have a few videos about that, of him talking about that. And I looked up what was going on, and he got married long time ago. Greg Locke is like 48, 49 years old.
Yeah.
I think he got married in the 90s or something. And he divorced from his wife in 2018. And 4 years later, he got married to his assistant who worked at the church. And so there was rumors that this started before they got married. I don't know if he admitted to it. Maybe he did. Because I thought I heard that too, but I wasn't sure.
I thought he did.
Yeah. So surprise, but we'll go into that a little bit later. So this is one more, I believe, with the witches, and I think this is the one. Well, let's find out.
You got first and last names.
Oh shit!
Of 6 witches.
I didn't pull the video up. I was sitting here watching on a blank screen. All right. Like I've never podcasted a day in my life. Here we go.
We got first and last names of 6 witches that are in our church. And you know what's strange? 3 of you are in this room right now.
Okay. I love that beginning. I have the names of 6 witches. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Where are they?
If you do, where are they?
And how did you get them?
And 3 of them are in attendance that moment. So first off, how do you know these 6 people are witches? How do you know their names? Why would you let the 3 of them in your church? If you really believe that these women, like you cracked open the Compendium Maleficarum or whatever, you found out, aha, this woman has a mole to her left eye, she's a witch or whatever. And why would you let them in? And why not name them? Why threaten them? Well, what's the point of doing that? Like you're giving them more time to turn you into a newt on stage or something? Just go for it. I don't go.
Why would they be there in the first place?
Yeah, also, right. What's their purpose there?
They don't believe the same thing you believe, so why would they be there?
Well, they're evil.
Torment you?
Yeah. This is how. So we're going to go into Greg Locke and conspiracy theories too, and also conspiracy theories in the IFB, which is all over the place. It is just, and so one quote I heard about this that kind of just makes it like, when you don't know how anything works, everything is a conspiracy. And you can see this every time someone mentions a conspiracy. Ask them just rudimentary knowledge about the topic. They don't know a goddamn thing about it. And it's easy to do this with witches because no one knows anything about witches because they're not real, because they don't exist. And so a lot of conspiracy theories fall apart, like the earth being flat, for example. I don't know if you've ever had a discussion with a flat earther about this or whatever, but oh God, I don't recommend it. But what it comes down to, because like the first, well, it's actually a lot of obvious questions about why the earth, why it can't be flat. But one of them is, why does this conspiracy exist? Well, what is the point? Like, there are conspiracy theories that are real. Like, for example, the Gulf of Tonkin incident in Vietnam, completely made up. The government made it up to justify acts of the Vietnam War. That is true. That is real. MK Ultra is a conspiracy theory where the CIA had a program to use LSD to try to mind control people. True. That actually happened. And whenever you have something that's wild or crazy like that, you need to look for the material benefit and interest to the party conducting the conspiracy. The CIA wanted to control people's minds. The government wanted to continue the war at Vietnam to stop communism, and they needed to convince American boys to go die 5,000 miles away for no good reason. Like, oh, well, look at that. They attacked us. And so the flat earth, where does that fall? Like, where? Why would every Navy, every Air Force, every cartographer, every ocean liner, every military, intercontinental ballistic missile operator, well, I was one of them, why would they all be lying about this? What is in it for all of them? And the answer, there is no reason. There isn't one at all. But if you ask them, they'll say, well, they're evil and they just want to say, no, like, people are not comic book villains. Like, people need a reason. Like, if you're going to put in that much work for thousands of years to tell people the earth is flat, yeah, that's and the witches are the same way. All right, let's go. More what he has to say here. There he goes.
There he is.
3 of you in the room right now. You better look in my eyeballs. We ain't afraid of you, you stinking witch. You devil worshiping Satanist witch. We cast you out in the name of Jesus Christ. We break your spells. We break your curse. We got your first name. We got your last name. We even got an address for one of you. You so much as cough wrong, and I'll expose you in front of everybody in this tent, you stinking witch. You were sent to this church to destroy us. You were sent to this church to lure us in. You were sent to this church to cast spell. Listen, some of you been sick because you befriended that witch. 2 of you in my wife's ladies Bible study, and you know who you are.
Okay, all right. Once again, I gotta jump in here. All right, 2 questions. He said, "I cast you out in the name of Jesus." Why didn't that work? If you can cast witches out in the name of Jesus, they're not witches anymore, right? Either you're not a proper vessel for this exorcism, or Jesus can't cast out witches. One of the two. One of the two has to be the case. And second, what?
But casting out is like for demons.
Well, I assume
That's like
that
possessed.
Well, I assume you need to be possessed by a demon to be a witch. I mean, human beings still can't control.
So.
Well, I don't know. I'm using his logic here. I don't know. But if he's trying to cast you out, yeah. But I don't know how demons or witches work or whatever. But because like the only example of a witch I can think of in the Bible, the closest thing I can describe to one that where they actually talked about her witching was it 1 Samuel when Saul goes to that lady to bring up Samuel's ghost. Remember that story?
I think so.
Yeah. There's a story where Saul is at war and he doesn't know if he's going to win, but Samuel's dead, so Samuel can't tell him the future. So he goes and finds this lady, and he dresses like he puts on a disguise and goes to a lady saying, "Hey, I need you to pull up a ghost for me." And she's like, "All right, sure, but just so you know, this is illegal. If like the king finds out that I've done this, I'll be executed." He goes, "The king will never find out." And so so she goes and she pulls up Samuel's ghost, and then Saul starts talking, and the lady freaks out. She goes, "You tricked me. You're the king. You're going to execute me." He's like, "Lady, I'm not worried about you. Okay, relax." And so then he talks to Samuel's ghost and asks if he's going to win the war that he's fighting. And Samuel says, "I'll put it this way, Saul. I'm going to be seeing you real soon." All right, we'll put it that's how this war is going to go. Just so you know, Saul. That's the only example I can think of. There's another witch mentioned in the New Testament, but I don't think it shows her. They describe her, but I don't think they show her doing any magic. But it didn't say she was possessed by a demon. It said that she could conjure up ghosts or whatever. That's the only example like that. But the second thing with Greg Locke is he said that some of you have gotten sick because you befriended this witches. Isn't it your responsibility as the shepherd, the leader of this flock, to get them away from? If it's getting your people sick, why are you just like, be careful, I may out you. It's like, no, that's very irresponsible of you. If you know that people are spreading disease. Well, we'll get to that too, but
Yeah. Well, and you're supposed to like befriend people. Like, show me one place in the Bible where Jesus didn't go sit with the people that believe differently than him. Show me one place in the Bible where Jesus didn't extend grace to anyone. Like he literally sat at the well with a woman who was not of the same faith or the same culture or anything like that. And everybody was like, oh, how dare he, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, why wouldn't I? So you're telling me that you have a church where like Jesus basically commands you to go out and like befriend people and show Christ's love to people. And you're saying that people are getting sick because they befriended people. So they're being punished for doing what God mandated them to do. Like, and even if they were a witch, even if they were, maybe they're there to learn about like whatever. Like, it doesn't make sense. It just, that irked me when I heard that, because I was like, you're how else are you supposed to like build relationships with people to tell people the gospel? Like, in addition to what you said, but like, if you're going to be a Christian and you're going to say X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't go against the Bible, if it doesn't go like, and it goes against the Bible, you're just like, so you only want to be friends with the people that are the same as you? Like, what? Okay.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. That is a fantastic point. That assuming that these witches are unbelievers and on their way to hell and, you know, doing the devil's work or whatever, it's your duty as a Christian to turn them away from that, not to avoid them at all costs. Yeah, that's an excellent point. Not if you're not in Greg Locke's church, though. he discourages that kind of social activity.
And we gonna ask you to get out, or I'll expose you in front of everybody. We got all 6 of their names. All 6 of them. 2 of them had already been confirmed before that thing ever even said it.
He's like growling into the microphone.
First and last name.
It is. It's just like he keeps going with this. This is. I'd like to know how because there's cuts in there. Meaning, like, it took some time in between that. How much of this sermon did he spend talking about these imaginary witches?
Probably the whole thing.
Yeah, and keep threatening.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like, if you have these, how did you get these names? Like, what?
And
okay.
Instead of it's you know what it is? It's like, so I was gonna save this for later, but I might as well use it now. Is that I genuinely don't understand how this works on anybody. I really don't. This is like textbook snake oil salesman shit, where they come up and they say they have this fantastical health cure that you take this snake oil, you will live to 150, you'll never get ill, it'll restore your youth and vitality. And it's like, wait a minute, if that's true, why are you selling it in the back of this horse wagon? Like, this would revolutionize life on Earth, but you decided to show up here, you know, in bumfuck Arkansas and selling this. No, you would be known around the world for this. What entitles me to this great deal? No, because it's made up. And the same thing with Greg Locke. Like, if you can actually determine who is and who isn't a witch, witchcraft is real. You're just gonna let them infect your church. You're letting them get spread disease everywhere, and you're just gonna stand on stage and warn them for an hour instead of exposing them. I don't know how it works. I really don't. I'm amazed at how gullible. I'm shocked at the stuff that convinces people. Shocked. I mean, and this is just, this is just a great example of that. Let's see, what else does he have to say here?
Look at that. Look at his. That's what I'm talking about. Like, look at him. He's like creeping around the stage. Like,
I know. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing.
This chick is new to our church and don't know none of you. So you got a choice. You can leave with your spells all by yourself. Or I'll show up next Sunday with a stage full of brooms. And I'll give you one and I'll fly your tail up out of this place in the name of Jesus. But we ain't playing your spell casting, witchcraft, nonsense, sage burning games. Everybody okay? The witches are like, nope. And your little dog too. You're out, witch.
So this is what I mean by he does have a sense of humor. Like the little dog too was a good touch. I did like that. And I do got to say the broom was a clever joke at the end, but wouldn't that mean he's a witch too? If he could fly the broom, I mean, wouldn't that make him the witch? I don't know. It's just if you look at it as a comedy bit, I can kind of appreciate it, but it's not. Like people take this seriously and they give him money and gave him
heard people in the audience
cheering. Yeah, just clapping for that shit. That's what I'm saying. There's more coming. There's more coming where I'm just thinking, how the hell is this working? I can see this working on someone in the middle of nowhere in 1828. All right, I get it. This is the year of our Lord 2024, and you're buying that. Like that stuff makes sense to you. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how you're going to survive in the world if you can't tell that is a con man. I really don't get it.
I agree, 100%.
All right, so this. Go ahead.
If he has, so he won't. Did anyone has anyone heard? Because he said next Sunday I'm gonna out these people.
I was thinking the same thing.
Anyone what happened the next week? I want to know.
I want to know.
Nosy.
No, I was good.
Did we dime people out? Did we fly brooms around the stage?
Man, Kyle was thinking the exact same thing. It's like he says, if you show up again, I'm gonna out you. I was like, okay, did anyone take attendance in church today? Do we have 6 people missing who were here last week? What
would make him think? No, you're good. Sorry. Anyways.
No, go ahead. We'll make a big what?
But what would make him think that people would have a problem being outed? If that's what someone believes.
Well, once again, it's like there's no actual cohesion to all of this. It's that witches are evil. We need to castigate them. We need to threaten them. You never stop to think about their actual motivations. Like what is in it for them? Like you mentioned, why are they in the church? Like if they're witches and they're evil to do the work of the devil, why would they be sitting in a sermon on Sunday? Maybe they've come to be converted, like you mentioned. But no, it's that these are cartoon villains. And they're here to do evil because that's what they do. So of course they're sneaking around with no good motivations. It's like, I don't know. It all is nonsense, but it's just, it's ridiculous. But all right, we're going to jump into the thing with Greg Locke and his wife. There's not a whole lot you can garner from here, but this is more just about who Greg Locke is or as a person, like what kind of character he has, and him talking about his wife. And this one popped up. I hadn't seen this before until I did the research on the show, but let's see what he has to say here. Oh, wrong one.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. Let's see what he has.
He in a private text message, he called his ex-wife 5 years ago. He called him the B word.
What is he doing?
Well, the only difference is my private text message was sold to the highest bidder and made public. I'd hate to read yours. You say, I can't believe you called her that. I can't believe she was being one to make me call her that. Don't mess with me up in this house. I'm not playing games. I know what life was like for 20 years.
Okay, so I appreciate that Greg Locke is going with the tried and true I know you are, but what am I defense when someone insults him. And what is going on with preachers airing their dirty laundry on the pulpit? I can't remember seeing that, or I saw it so rarely that it wasn't. Remember this happened with the Micah Miller case when he was on stage and he was talking about, my wife did this and it was so rough and I can't believe she do that to me. And once again, just like in the Micah Miller thing, the crowd is all clapping and they're saying, no, a preacher gets on stage and tells me how much of a bitch his wife is. I said, all right, this is not the church for me. Yep. This is just like, look, maybe she is. I don't know the lady, but I certainly didn't come here to hear about your marriage problems. That is not your job here as the pastor of this church. Not a good look, not professional, certainly not a good representation of God and Christianity. So I don't know. What do you think you saw? Had you seen that before?
I don't think so. I don't think I'd seen that one. I just don't think it's appropriate. That is private, business, or talk to your close friends about it. But why do you have to shit talk someone in front of everyone? Why is that okay? I just feel like it speaks to his character. I feel like it's so disrespectful to his ex-wife. I feel like if that was my spouse, I'd be like, so you're going to talk that way about me? What? I don't know. I just don't like it. He makes me want to be mad.
Yeah,
I-
I just don't know why a pastor would do something like that. Like, even if you agree with it or not, it's just doesn't speak well of your character. I just want to throw
it's
that.
necessary.
It's not like what's the point of this whole thing here? All right, so there's another one I had here, and this is gonna go into. So I should have done this after the witch one. It would have fit better, but we'll throw it up here anyway. But Greg Locke also, this is something now. All right, in your time in the IFB, did you ever have any book burnings? Did you ever see any of those? I love that we had to think about this. I do love that. I do love that. It's like, oh, we could have. It's kind of fucked up.
No, because I think
I'll tell you what, in my experience, I never saw a book burning, but what we did have was events where you could come throw away your CDs or break them. Yeah.
Anything that was like worldly. Like,
yeah.
We had like a big bonfire, like clothes that were inappropriate. I'm sure.
Oh,
books
you had an
were
actual
in there.
fire? I never had a fire.
I distinctly remember there being a bonfire.
Wow.
I don't know, like, and I haven't thought about it in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I distinctly remember, I don't know what church it would have been. Well, it's either Maranatha or Landmark. But I distinctly remember you could bring like books or CDs or whatever, and you could break them and burn them. And I remember it was like a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember specifics. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
that's kind of what we have. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just trailing off. I think I have been a part of one.
Well, you're gonna find a very familiar scene then. Greg Locke held one of these, and let's see.
He's probably the one who facilitated it.
Yeah, I don't know what year this is, but
we got every bit of kind of witchcraft, spell books, everything you can imagine, and this thing is full of every kind of witchcraft, spell book.
That is Maleficent. That is Maleficent.
Did he go to the store and buy toys just to burn them?
No, like
box?
There's a crowd of people there, and they have like bags and boxes of all their worldly shit.
Yeah, but it looks like it looks like it's a toy in a box.
Oh, I think it's just a cardboard box because they have like they have like boxes and plastic. Okay. You'll see as the video goes on, but I'm pretty sure that's Maleficent. Am I right? That's what it looks like. Yeah. That image right there. I don't know, folks. I don't know if there's anything threatening about Maleficent. It's a cartoon. It's fine. It's okay. But let's see how this goes. It's not real. More importantly,
everything you can imagine. And
I don't know, a Disney villains glassware set. It's a fucking Disney glassware set. It's just,
I'm telling you, you're crazy about Disney too.
I was right about to say. Oh shit. Okay, I gotta pull up for a conversation here. One of the first TikTok videos I did, if you guys don't know, I have a TikTok account, Powers Taken Not Given, check it out sometime. But one of the first videos I did was talking about this was right after, I don't know if you saw this, but there was an Instagram influencer named Dylan Mulvaney, I think Dylan Mulvaney was her name, and she's trans. And there was like a 10-second spot where they made a Bud Light can for a bunch of influencers on Instagram. And they would put their face on this can. And they sent the can to them, and they would hold up the can and say, oh, look what Bud Light did. And people lost their goddamn minds. They started going crazy. It's like, we're going to boycott Bud Light. Kid Rock, put up a 24, can setup of Bud Light and started firing his gun at it. And people were just saying that, Bud Light has betrayed the children of America. It's a fucking beer company, but it was insanity. And I did a video talking about this, the right-wing boycott movement and how I've seen this over 20-something years. And I remember them boycotting Target. They always boycott Starbucks. They boycott Nike. They boycott the NFL. They boycott Disney every 5 years, it seems. Disney is boycotted consistently, and Disney's just fine. They're okay because the boycott isn't built on anything of substance. I brought up on an episode a while ago that back in the 90s, Disney started having they called it Gay Day. They wouldn't call it that today. I think they'd come with it, but it rhymes, so it worked back then. And this was just all the rage at churches where they talked about Gay Day, and they said that Disney, I heard this more than a few times, but they said, can you imagine if they had Murderer Day? Can you imagine if Disney would do that? That's what they equated it to. And that was the first Disney boycott I saw. I'm sure there were plenty before that. And yeah, so pick your year. They boycotted Disney over that Buzz Lightyear movie because they had one gay character in the back. Remember that? Yeah, and it never lasts. Yeah, it doesn't work because I'm talking about boycotts here. You guys didn't expect that in the show, but boycotts are effective as long as like the people behind the boycott genuinely believe in the cause and it's not for some ridiculous, frivolous thing, and the people are motivated to actually go through with it. And if it's not a monopoly, like Disney has like a 54% stake in all of media, they're going to be fine. They're $1 trillion company, and like the most effective boycott I think that people are aware of was the Montgomery bus boycott back in the 1960s with Martin Luther King, and where the black residents in Montgomery, Alabama said that they were not going to ride the buses as long as the buses were segregated. And everyone references that. And it did work. You know, they finally lifted the segregation thing. You know how long the black people of Montgomery, Alabama boycotted the buses? A year and a half. They spent a year and a half never riding the buses. That's how fucking long it took for that boycott to work. And that is a small like bus company in Alabama. We're talking about Disney here, okay? You can burn all the toys of Maleficent that you want. Disney is doing just fine. Like they own Star Wars, they own ABC, they own ESPN. Disney's not going anywhere. I don't like Disney, but you know, well, whatever. That's for socialism reasons. But all right, let's keep going with this.
This thing is full, so we got clothes, a lot of things. If you need to get rid of it, the most you can get,
Not Harry
start
Potter.
throwing it in there.
No, of course, Harry Potter.
Start throwing it in
It's
there.
not
Start
real.
throwing it in there. Burn it. Burn it.
It's a fucking party. And then, like, so there's one with this later in the video. Where did I see it? This lady. Oh, here she is.
Mom, let me throw something.
All right, I think that's enough of that. Now, if you're ever at an event and you overhear someone saying, "Mom, let me burn some books," probably not the event you want to hang out at. Just saying, that's probably not the one you want to go to.
That's wild. But now that like, I'm sure I know I've been to at least one.
Wow. Did you take anything? Do you remember?
I don't think I had anything to take, which would be the thing because everything was so like. TJ, I got in trouble at like 17 years old for having a High School Musical CD and not telling my parents about it. Like, what was I gonna like? And me and this other girl, we passed it back and forth to each other to keep from getting in trouble until she got caught, and then she caved and spilled everything. Dummy. But anyways, like, I think that's stupid. I think it's wild.
Yeah. It was just really sad to see how everyone is just cheering and chanting Jesus and throwing. It's like, folks, what is? I mean, can you think of any context in which the story involves a bunch of books being set on fire? We're like, this was a good thing. This was a great thing. That I don't think it's ever been remembered well. Whether it's done purposefully or accidentally, a bunch of books being on fire, not good. Not good. One more thing with the book, and this isn't necessarily the book burning, but there's this move. This is an agency called Moms for Liberty that's trying to ban a lot of books from public libraries because they contain like descriptions of sex or honestly mostly just any talk about queer issues, whatever. They're like, well, we can't have our kids knowing that gay people exist or some nonsense. And one thing is like their stated goal is they want to keep like what's the word I'm looking for here? Like obscenity. Like they want to keep obscenity away from kids. Like a kid should, like a 9-year-old should not be able to walk into a library and pull out, I don't know, a Hustler DVD or something and rent it. Yeah, of course, like you can't like have pornography given to children. Everyone's all right with that. But then they start saying that these books talking about sex at all should be, banned, or talking about queer issues at all. And look, even if I thought their goal was actually noble or whatever, what do you think you're doing here? Like, what do you think you're trying to? The internet exists, right? Like, you're aware of this. Like how many books do you think kids are reading about? Let's say you successfully ban all the books that mention sex in public libraries. The kids have the internet in their pocket. They're gonna find out, right? This is like you're gonna take down the entire. And I always ask people, when did you, like most people, like I guess people in our cohort wouldn't quite matter because they were outliers, but your general person, when they found out about sex, you're talking 10, 11 years old. Like people know, okay, you're not going to hide that from them. But I don't know, it seems like a fool's errand to even, it's just performative nonsense to heighten up the rubes and everything. This one is like one that's kind of serious, and I'm going to like wedge this in here. before we go into the conspiracy one. But this one I hadn't seen yet, but it didn't surprise me. This is Greg Locke, and he's talking about. Okay, so I won't ask you to talk about this. I know this is a sensitive topic to a lot of people, but for me, I will gladly talk about how I feel about this. Is that with the conflict happening, and conflict is a strong word that's going on with Israel and Palestine and Lebanon and Syria, you name it. But the humanity of the Palestinian people is one of the most dismissed on planet Earth, where dead Palestinians is met with just endless string of euphemisms and equivocate, like, oh, well, you got to understand those 30,000 Palestinian kids, they just got to die. And people make excuse for it all the time. And I have nothing of it. We're going to look back in 30 years as this being like the most shameful moment in, one of the more shameful moments in humanity. But wherever anyone stands on this, you may not agree with me. You should. But whether you stand on it, I think that, like what Greg Locke says here, I'll just play it. Let's see.
Israel should make the Gaza Strip a parking lot by this time next week. Destroy the whole thing.
Okay, now, someone correct me if I'm wrong here, but that sounds a lot like genocide. That sounds a lot like genocide to me. It reminds me a lot, and you may have been, well, you probably remember a bit of this, Kai, but in the early 2000s, when the war on terror first kicked off, and everyone was understandably outraged and upset after 9/11 and scared, and our response was just immediate bloodlust. And I heard a lot of people say, we need to turn the Middle East into a parking lot. They said it all the time. We need to turn the whole place into glass. And it wasn't just, oh, hey, we have to defend ourselves. No, that's not enough. We need to annihilate everyone in this region. And him saying that, and to fucking cheers, that there are millions of people who live in the Gaza Strip. Not if Greg Locke has anything to do with it. He wants them all gone, all obliterated. This isn't some sort of there needs to be a two-state solution. No, nothing. Just obliterate the entire thing. And I don't know if, actually, yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you saw sentiments like this quite a bit. Like the warlike mentality and the worship of death and destruction in the movement. Have you ever run across that?
Probably. I can't think of anything that like sticks out of my memory as like that I can pinpoint, but probably, I mean, especially with like how we've talked about before, how sometimes churches are like so integrated with the military sometimes. So especially with the global war on terror, I'm sure that there was, but there's nothing I can think of like that comes to mind. How about you?
Oh God, yeah, I was surprised because all the time. I mean, I can't think of a war they were against. I can't. I mean, like, I remember them talking about the Vietnam War and how it was so bad that people were protesting the Vietnam War. I remember, it's been funny to be this old now and look back on how people have mysteriously changed from what they were, I knew they were. Just the American people in general, not just people in the movement. The movement, though, was great because they were supposedly speaking for God. But I recall how hated Muhammad Ali was in the 90s by the IFU. Oh, do you remember that? I don't know if you know.
No.
Yeah, they would talk about Muhammad Ali all the time and how disappointed they were and upset because he dodged the draft, or he didn't dodge, he refused to go. He's like, no, I'm not fighting in the Vietnam War, not happening. He's like, his statement that he said, no one in the Viet Cong ever called me the N-word, is what he said. And basically that, what beef do I have with someone in the Viet Cong when I don't have civil rights here in the United States? And he went to jail, and they stripped his heavyweight title from him. And the 90s, people were still mad at him about that. And this changed around 96. That's when it started changing, when Muhammad Ali had the Olympic torch, and like people around the world were like, oh, he was absolutely right about that. Like the Vietnam War. All right, so history lesson real quick for people who don't know what the Vietnam War was. So this is what happened in the Vietnam War. So Vietnam, I think it was called, I can't remember what it was called before that, but it was a French colony. The French government had colonized Southeast Asia, and they had taken over this country and this area in Vietnam, and they had established a puppet monarchy. And this monarchy answered to French interest, and it was a literal colony all the money, all the wealth was being extracted out of Vietnam and sent over to France. And the people of Vietnam said, how about no? Like, you guys have been, occupying us for, hundreds of years now, and we don't want to be ruled by the French anymore. So they organized and overthrew the monarchy, and the country split into the loyalists, the Vietnamese who were loyal to the French monarchy, and in North Vietnam, I believe. I forget on the top of my head, but in South Vietnam said that we're going to overthrow and establish our own government. Now, here in the United States, we say we love freedom. We love self-determination. Our country was started the exact same way, I might add, that we said, no, we don't want to be ruled by a foreign power overseas. And the problem was that the people who decided they wanted to run the government were communists. And the United States says, well, we can't have that. I mean, there's no way. So they picked the monarchy and said, we're going to back the French colonists and their monarchy over the will of the people of Vietnam, because we get to decide what kind of government Vietnam has, not them. But we get to decide it. And we said, we're so against it, we're going to send our people to die to make sure they don't take over their own country. And Muhammad Ali saw that and said, fuck you, I'm not doing that. And he was villainized for decades. Now everyone loves Muhammad Ali. And the same thing happened with Martin Luther King. I don't know if you remember this, but we didn't celebrate Martin Luther King Day at Tabernacle. Like, they didn't have it. And at Maranatha we did, but they were kind of forced to, because there were so many people from the military base that it wouldn't have worked. Yeah. But I remember people talking badly about King all the time at Maranatha. Seeing people grow over time with this stuff, it's been pretty interesting. But with the war thing, yeah, they backed every military invasion. I can't think of a time. Like, now they probably don't support Ukraine, but that's for political reasons. But I can't. Can you think of a time where they're like, no, this war was actually bad, we shouldn't have done it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Nothing comes to mind.
Yeah, same. But that's one of the things that
interesting.
Yeah, it's one of the more consistent themes that I saw growing up in IFB, that the love for violence was pervasive. Even in like, we would sing songs like "Onward Christian Soldiers" all the time. "I'm in the Lord's Army," and it was a very militant dialogue that was put in. This is a story that I remember. This was a Tabernacle as well. Our preacher at Tabernacle, Hightower, he was talking about this. There was an abortion clinic that was, what happened? Shit. Oh yeah, it was an abortion clinic that was bombed. And this guy got arrested for it. And I remember him being on in the pulpit, and he said, listen, I don't support anyone going out there and bombing. Sorry, I keep coughing you a second here. He said, I certainly don't support anybody going out there and bombing abortion clinics. I condemn that wholeheartedly. However, if you look at the scoreboard, it's 30 million for them and 1 for us. I will never forget him saying that, because, all right, that kind of negates everything you said about not supporting it, because you're making it seem like it's a battle and we're losing 30 million to 1. What are you kind of going with here? But that's just something that I've noticed, and it's something that is pretty strongly linked because of the link between Christianity and the American military. Like, I almost like one is an outgrowth of the other. Did you recall anything like that?
That actually, I feel like I remember what you're talking about, because that sounds almost word for word for what I heard.
Oh, but maybe they got around.
Well, I know that Landmark and Tabernacle were intricately connected.
True.
So I feel like probably, but yeah, no, I distinctly remember that. And I'm like, so you're fine with this? Because it meets your... Okay.
Yeah. At least it seems that way.
One of the many cases of double standards.
We love our double standards.
Double standard.
We love them, don't we, folks?
Jinx.
All right. So,
wild.
All right. I want to end here on some little fun things. Well, kind of not fun, but they're just, these are the conspiracy theories.
Did you see the video of Greg Locke talking about autism?
Yes, that's on here.
One?
Yeah,
okay,
I'll go right to that one then. Let's see. Which one is this?
It's insane.
Let me pull it up.
Makes me really angry.
So before we go to this clip here, actually, no, here it is. We can pull it up. We can all watch it together. See what.
Do not jump up right now and rebuke me for what I'm about to say. On 3 occasions, we're going to go through all of them, not today, thank God. On 3 occasions, kids were brought to Jesus, not of their own will, of their own volition, but by their parents, that had epileptic fits, anger issues, outbursts of emotion. And because we've called it possession, parents refuse to deal with it. Are you telling me my kid's possessed? No, I'm telling you, your kid could be demonized and attacked, but your doctor calls it autism. I don't care if you stand or not. I don't care if you leave or not. I'm telling you, there's deliverance in the name of Jesus Christ for your children and their children's children. There's deliverance in that. Ain't no such diagnosis in the Bible. Jesus cast out that oppressing spirit, and the child was made whole that very hour, the Bible said, that very hour.
All right, Kai. So that was that the one you were thinking about?
Yeah. I think it's dumb. It makes me really fucking mad.
What's your commentary on it?
Tell me you know nothing about science without telling me you know nothing about science. And you want to sit there and be like, oh, in the Bible, or it's not a disease talked about in the Bible. You really want to get in a list of all the things that are not in the Bible that we have in today's society? I don't know, Alzheimer's, stroke, yeah.
The common cold, like literally any disease. It's like,
but also, they ate a much different, there's so many factors that goes into why people have disorders and diseases and issues, and it's just so insensitive and it's so unkind. And I know so many incredible Christian families where their kids do have autism or Down syndrome or these things that are just normal things that happen. Sadly, not sadly, there's something wrong with them, but it's just asinine to me that he would say something like that from the pulpit, especially when, again, you're called to love everybody and Jesus did love everybody. And I don't know, it just really irks me because that's not something, and it's already a challenge for families to get their kids the help that they need because insurance isn't super helpful with stuff. And then you're going to sit there and say that they're possessed. Okay, get fucking wrecked. It really just makes me angry. It doesn't make sense. You want to go down the laundry list of issues that we have in today's society that they didn't have in the Bible. Okay, science is changing every day, and they don't even really know what causes autism or other stuff. So you're saying that they're less than, or that I don't know. It just really makes me mad, and
So this is another one that makes sense if you live 100 years ago. This line isn't that odd if you think about it through a biblical literalist point of view or something. So like you were saying, the reason that you read these stories 2,000 years ago when people said this person is possessed by a demon because they didn't know what epilepsy was. They had no idea. This person is acting insane. They're foaming at the mouth. They're just jabbering. They're convulsing. You think, okay, you're possessed by a demon. Why would you be acting like this? You don't know anything about the brain or brain chemistry or chemicals or anything like that. You're completely lost. Their best explanation was that a demon is taking over your body and is making you do all this wild stuff. So you live in an ancient time and someone says that, it makes sense. It doesn't make any sense today. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's just nonsense.
And it's just so hurtful. Mm-hmm. It's so hurtful to those families and people.
So this is where it gets, when I start thinking about this, I agree. However, if you really believe it, if you genuinely believe that demons possess people, make them act odd, I can see why you would think that. I could.
I cannot justify it.
Well, I mean, but if you
see it.
Really, if you believe demons were real and possess people, that they would act weird, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, but it's autism. When I picture people being demon possessed, I don't picture a kid struggling with everyday things or other
Oh, it's
like
too mild for demon possession.
yeah.
Yeah,
I just don't like, because I mean, like, I am still a Christian, right? So I do believe certain things, but like,
so what would demon
you
possession
equate
look
that
like?
with autism. I don't know, but not autism. And
Yeah.
especially, you're not gonna sit here and like hate on children, like, and even it just
Yeah.
always makes me angry.
Well, yeah, I'm not. See, yeah, this is a weird one. I'm not trying to. I don't agree
doesn't
with them,
make
obviously.
sense.
It's because if
scientifically, it does not make sense to say that.
well, you're right about that. Yeah, I agree 100%. But I just don't know how. Like, I think Gridlock's a charlatan, obviously, but I'm trying to address the people who do believe it. And like, where would you draw the line between that is definitely a medical issue and that is definitely demon possession? Because I don't think that line exists. It's anywhere you want it to be. And if it's anywhere you want it to be, it could be on autism. Like, it could be there. So that's the one thing I'm trying to say. I don't know how to decipher that. I really don't. I still think it's nonsense, but I find myself doing this a lot with because we've been there, where I don't think this is Greg Locke, but I know that there are people out there who would say that and genuinely believe it, who aren't trying to be harmful. Like, they really think that you're wasting this kid's time by taking them to a doctor when they need to talk to a priest to have that's going to help the kid. Like, they're not, but it's ridiculous, of course, but I don't know how to get through to those folks. I don't, because I just can't, there's nothing, they're going to leave God over me every time, Yeah. I was gonna ask. So there's one here we're gonna get to, but this is something I gotta be careful here when I edit this one, because whenever you talk about COVID, the videos, like if they sense like COVID disinformation, the video will be taken down quick. And so I don't want to get a strike. But do you remember, like, in the IFB movement, the anti-vax move? I don't remember it being there 20 years ago. I don't remember. Oh, you either, right?
No. I mean, I remember I got all my vaccines.
What happened?
Schedule.
What happened? Like what? Because I feel like
is it anti now?
Yeah, ever since COVID, there's been a huge anti. Now, not just the COVID vaccine. That's where it started. But ever since then, so I worked in at the a community action agency, and we would go to the Indiana State Assembly a lot for the bills and everything. And I saw lots of like IFB, Christian and right-wing movements. Yeah. They were backing stuff like, said, we don't want any vaccines in schooling because which, listen, if you are, once again, I'm doing it again, but what I'm justifying their thought process is consistent, at least, which I can't generally say, but about this, it kind of is that we have like vaccine schedules that go back, 70 years. Like, hey, you get a kid, you're born, you need these vaccines. You want to go to school, you need these vaccines. And I can get why people were suspicious about the COVID vaccine at first, because in memory that we know of, it takes years, like years and years and years to get a solid vaccine ready. And you have one ready in 1 year, like, oh, wait a minute, that's weird. But then you find out the reason that happened, that usually for the vaccine development, you have 6 months of stage 1. And then when this is good, 6 months of stage 2, it just goes on and on. With COVID, they did them all concurrently because they didn't have time. And so they just had to hope that it was actually good on all of them. And when it was good on all 3, it worked and they approved. This is why they got it done that quick. But if you're going to say, I just don't believe the WHO or the FDA or the CDC, I think they're all lying about this vaccine, why wouldn't they be lying about the other ones too? So it kind of makes sense to me that they balked against that. But it's brand new, because I remember us making fun of anti-vaxxers. Jenny McCarthy, and I bring this up because of the autism thing. Jenny McCarthy was like a celebrity who was always talking about how she believed vaccines cause autism. And I don't remember seeing any of that in the past, and I see a lot of it now.
No, I agree with you. I don't remember seeing it in the past either.
Yeah, I thought that was.
I think, like, at the end of the day, like, as long as you're informed about the decisions that are making for you and that's what's right for you, then, like, you live your best life. But I don't remember seeing, like, in the IFB being anti.
Yeah. I feel like the move is like, it's gotten worse. It's somehow gotten worse. What was that?
Interesting. No,
why?
interesting.
Why so?
I don't know. I just wouldn't. I don't know. It makes me wonder what else has changed in their opinions of the world.
What else, like outside the vaccines and everything?
Yeah. Have their views shifted on anything else?
You know, I don't. Yeah, there are they ever since like 2000. Their race issues, they've been forced to dial those back, like the whole Bob Jones interracial dating thing, because they all defended it back then. I was there, I remember it, and they kind of had to, oh well, I guess we were wrong about that. We have a horrible track record, and then. I have noticed one thing. I don't know if we talk. I think we may have talked about this our first episode, but I've noticed something over the years in the messaging in bringing people into the fold. In that when we were kids, option 1, 2, and 3 was to nail them with fire and brimstone. That's a lot less common now. These days, what I see a lot is we called it seeker friendly. I don't know if you guys ever heard that term back in the day. I remember people say they would refer to seeker friendly. I forget
a lot of it.
Oh, okay. Well, they would talk about seeker friendly churches, and people shit on them all the time. Seeker friendly churches were churches that didn't focus so much on the "you are going to hell if you disagree with me." They didn't really do a lot of that. They did a lot of, hey, join the church and be part of this great community. And God can be your friend, and he's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And here's this rock music concert we're putting on. And so people would talk badly about those churches because it was kind of going away from the important part that we're keeping you out of hell. Like, that's pretty important, right? We need to, and a lot more of these churches are like this these days. I mean, I know why. It's because that is very off-putting that you walk into this church and they're telling you that, your righteousness is as filthy rags and you will burn in a lake of fire in eternal darkness where the worm dieth not. You're going to scare away a lot of people. They would rather go to the happy church that plays, Our God is an awesome God on guitar on a loop, for 10 minutes. That sounds a lot more fun. You haven't seen that? Because I've definitely seen a lot of that.
I don't keep up with a lot of it as much as you do, I don't think. Because I haven't been around it in so long. Like, most of what I remember has like come up after like us talking about stuff, and then I'm like, oh yeah, like now I remember. So that's interesting, huh?
Yeah,
I wonder why they moved away from that.
Well, because it's not good for growth. Like, people don't put up with that anymore. Back in the day, they would, but a modern audience is not going to. They're like, no, and you'll see that change a lot. You can look at old sermons and how the message changes to fit the culture. Like, the message they used in the 90s is not the same message they would have used in the 1920s. They gotta adapt to society. And like, yeah, which I don't know. I try not to be too judgmental on this, but whatever. Like, the fire and brimstone stuff, you either believe it or you don't. That's how I see it. Like, if you really do, then yeah, I get it. I'd use it too. Like, if you thought someone was gonna walk into a burning building, you would do everything you could to stop them. You wouldn't give a fuck about hurting their feelings. Like, no, I need to stop you from burning to death. And so I get that. Jesus, I got to stop doing this. I've been defending them for like the past 15 minutes. But
you really have.
I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to be fair.
You're doing great, TJ. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, because I was there and I did believe it once, and so I did have these thoughts that if I really think someone's going to die and go to hell, I need to do all I can to stop them. They might be mad at me. They might think I'm being rude, but if I keep them out of hell, it's totally worth it. Like, hurting my feelings, I don't really care. This is another conspiracy one. I don't know if you said, I had never heard this one from Greg Locke, but here we go.
Of course we've been lied to by the government. Okay, I get that. Of course you can fake pictures. I get that. Do I believe we went to the moon? No. And you ought to sue your brain for non-support if you do believe we went to the moon. Nobody ever went to the moon. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. 50 years and we ain't been back, got more technology in your hand that they had to send a rocket up 50 years ago. Of course, we've never been to the moon, okay? Him it and all these Twitter people, okay, we've never been to the moon, so go ahead and clip it and get me a Newsweek this week, whatever. Shut up.
All right, this is church. I want to remind everyone, this is a church sermon.
Is he joking? Is this like a comedy bit?
It works as a comedy bit. Like, Greg Locke actually works great. If you think of this as a comedy bit, it's solid gold. But no, this is his. People are cheering. They're cheering. I listen. Whether you think we went to the moon or not, we did, by the way. But whether you think we went to the moon or not, if I'm in church and the pastor starts ranting about us not, it's like, where am I? Well, what's going on? Why are we talking about this? What does this have to do with church at all? And yeah, I don't know. Had you run across that one?
No, I don't even have words to form.
just a normal Sunday at Greg Locke's church when I talk about the fucking moon landing.
You just don't know what inspired that.
I know. I would like to see the build up to that. Like what exactly made him talk about? Oh, go ahead. What?
Oh no, I'm just in shock over here.
Yeah. What made him talk about the moon landing for 45 seconds and going on? And the moon landing's another.
The moon landing wasn't even that far after we created the atomic bomb. Like,
no,
the technology, like,
that's a great point. The atom bomb was way bigger of a scientific advancement than the moon landing. You're right. That is a fantastic point. One is a lot more difficult than the other. Yeah,
I don't even have words.
It's one of, now I will say, when it comes to wild conspiracies like the moon landing and the flat earth, I can there is at least there's like some sort of like motivation why you can say why the government would lie about the moon landing. I can see like there's compared to flat earth, at least compared to flat earth where there's none whatsoever. Because for those of you who weren't around for it, like both of us, but the space race back in the late 60s, it was never about what people thought it was about how cool it is that we were in outer space. The space race, I know, right? The space race between the United States and the Soviet Union was all about military power. It was showing who could have dominance over space and threaten the other with more intimidation. Yeah. And getting to the moon was the ultimate sign of that. Now, up until the moon landing, the Soviets were kicking our ass. The Soviets had the first satellite. They had the first animal in space. They had the first human being in space. I think they were the first to orbit Earth. We were getting fucking smoke, but goddamn United States of America, at the last second, we had a buzzer beater and got to the moon first. Yeah, we got the big victory at getting to the moon, which is
did we go to the moon? I don't know.
Did we really? And see, this is actually where I go to, is that who had all the motivation imaginable to discredit our moon landing and the technology to do it? The Soviets. The Soviets they were watching us like a hawk. And you know what? They said, oh, all right, United States got that. They never said, oh, nope, they actually didn't. Here's our evidence. They would be first in line to do it. And you know what? They never did. And ever since then, as other nations have gotten more technologically advanced, they could have proven it too, and they didn't. And they're like, yep, turns out it's real. And that's what this all comes down to, is that, look, I try to, this is what I try to do with people all the time. When there is this growing, I do understand this growing sentiment of suspicion, cynicism. That's the word, cynicism, because the government does lie all the time. They do. That's not a surprise. Every government does. It's every human history. Anyone in a position of power is going to take the chance to lie to you. So it's fine to be cynical of government and any power structure. You should be. However, you can't just leave it there, which is what a lot of people do. And they'll say, well, the government lies all the time. Why wouldn't they lie about the moon landing? That's not how you find out if something is true. You use other, concurrent sources of evidence and information to find out if the claim is consistent with reality. So you look at the fact that every space agency, every fucking university, every scientist, every engineer, they're all like, yes, the moon landing happened. Now you have to think that there's this conspiracy of thousands of people, and like everyone who worked at NASA, like every rocket engineer over the last 70 years. And they've all kept their mouth shut about it. When they had every incentive to actually, bring this forward. No, sorry, the moon landing happened, and they couldn't tell you anything about it. But that's always a weird conspiracy too. But it's not quite as weird as the flat Earth. That one's a lot weirder. But I just I
don't understand how people can actually believe in a flat Earth theory when there's literally pictures of the solar system.
Well, they faked it.
Like-
That's what it is. They faked it. It's like if they faked the pictures of the Earth and the planets, they faked everything else. There's no evidence you can show them because it's all fake. You can see. I was having an argument with a flat earther.
My head hurt.
I was having an argument with a flat earther like last year. I ran across two in the same room, believe it or not. But he was saying I was getting my hair cut, and one of them mentioned they didn't believe in the flat Earth, in the round Earth, and mine was blown. And the guy cutting my hair, he didn't believe the Earth was round either. And so I had like a 45-minute conversation about how we can know the Earth. It was wild. But I was what was I saying? What's he just talking about?
Sorry,
About being able to prove it was round and shit, it was good too. Oh, I remember pictures. And so I was telling them that, well, the International Space Station is orbiting the Earth, and there's a 24-hour live stream where they go around the Earth. You can see it, like you can watch that the Earth. He's like, yeah, I've seen those videos, and they say the Earth is moving 1,000 miles an hour. Looks pretty slow to me. And I was like, are you shitting me? I just like
it's huge.
It's huge, right? It's a very simple answer. It is the simplest answer imaginable. But he's like, I don't know, it looks pretty slow. It's like, oh, you're a moron. I remember asking.
Do you want to go faster? Like, do you want to feel like?
Yeah, if you saw a car going 1,000 miles an hour, it'd be really fast. So I guess a planet moving at 1,000 miles an hour must be fast too. Like that's
with
what they
billions
think.
Of people on it.
Yeah, right. And I was like, well, planes move at like 500 miles an hour. Does it look like they're moving 500 miles in the sky? No, because the scale is massive. The same thing with planet Earth. And I brought up that I said, well, why is the moon upside down in Australia? Is what I brought up to them, and he's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah. If you look at a picture of the moon in Australia, it's inverted from the way it is here in the northern hemisphere. If the Earth is flat, how is that possible?" Like, "Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty interesting." I was like, "Yeah, it is pretty interesting because the Earth's fucking round. That's why." So
do flat earthers just think that like if you cut the globe in half and lay it out, that's what it is? Like, would you not fall off of?
They think that Earth is like a pizza, and so they brought up the firmament. So in the book of Genesis, it talks about the firmament for the sky, and firmament. You'll see this in a lot of ancient societies where they because you've never seen the word firmament before, right? Like it's like the only time you ever see the word firmament. And what a firmament refers to is like a snow globe. And so like it's like a solid object. That's why it's called firm. And you can see a reference to in Genesis where it says the windows of heaven were open, where they opened the windows of the firmament to allow the waters that were above the heavens to fall. And like it's an ancient philosophy for a flat earth. And they believe it. They're like, yeah, there's a firmament. And that's why. And I remember asking, what's the firmament made out of? Which is very funny because they don't know. They don't know what it is. And they don't believe in gravity. They think that, which news to me, I didn't know they didn't believe in gravity. And I asked about that. And I was like, okay, well, why do things fall? Like, why do objects fall? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, if you take something on a table, you push it off, it falls to the ground. Why does that happen? And they're like, well, of course it falls. Like, yeah, I know. I know it falls. Like, of course, you've seen it every day. But what is the force acting on the object to make it fall? And his answer was density. I was like, well, density is involved. And I found out later that he just didn't know the flat earth theory. I had to read about this. But they believe that gravity is not real and that the reason objects fall is that objects are all seeking their relative density. And so since this pen is more dense than the air, it's seeking the relative density of the ground, which is an interesting theory, but it doesn't work for a lot of reasons. But the main reason it doesn't explain like the rotation of the planets and gravity. I had to go over 8th grade fucking science with this guy and talk about how, objects are all attracted essentially to the center of the earth, that you have to imagine that the center of the earth has like a bungee cord attached to everything on planet Earth, and that everything falls towards the center of the earth at roughly 9.8 meters per second squared. And that applies to everything on the earth, including the earth itself, which means that everything is drawn to a central location, and that's why it's round. And that explains why the planets are round, explains the moon, the sun. It explains why everything goes around the sun, why the moon goes around the earth. This math answers everything. I was like, I've yet to hear anything you say account for any of that shit. Of course, I just like, stuff you should literally learn in 8th grade. People blame the school systems. No, they just didn't pay attention. They just didn't pay attention. That's it.
Insane.
Insanity. All right. We're around for Greg Locke here. I forgot what this one was about.
He
Let's
just
see.
used so much material.
Who, Greg Locke?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I forgot what this one even was, but let me see. What's he have to say?
Out.
I've been right about all of it. We've been right about all of it.
I'm gonna see if I can get this a little louder. I don't think I can hear him. I'm gonna see if I can turn it up a little bit.
Oh, yes. Yes. These wicked fools don't win in the end. They don't win in the end. So all this fear bull crap is that. It is bull crap. Say amen. I know you've never been to a church where a pastor told you to say amen after I said bull crap. It's better than what I want to say.
All things being fair, that was a funny line. And when he said it's better than what I want to say, that was a funny line.
A little bit of humility. I'll give him that.
That was funny. All right. So.
I call it real BS. Biblical stupidity. Biblical stupidity. So I know I wasn't going to say nothing about it, but I think I feel froggy enough. I'm going to jump right now and just say this.
Not froggy.
I am not apologizing for what I said on this platform last week. The Delta variant was nonsense then. It is nonsense now. You will not wear masks in this church. You will not wear masks in this church. I'm telling you right now, do not get vaccinated. Do not get vaccinated. I don't care what you think about me. I don't need your money. I don't need your hand clap. I don't need more people on social media to follow me. I ain't following along with it. Joe Biden's days are numbered. I said they're numbered. I've told you the whole time this election was fraudulent. We got so much proof. The only people that can deny it are crack-smoking, demon-possessed leftists. Whoa, I'm about to tear his whole pulpit in half.
All right, that's a reasonable.
It's really just his antics for me. He's like a toddler on a sugar high.
Yes, that's a great way to describe it. Yes.
He's like tapping and running around and like hopping and skipping and jumping and then he's up and then he's like.
They eat it up though. They eat it up.
That was too much.
They eat it up. I like that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said I cannot.
I like that he said he doesn't need more people to follow him on social media, folks. He absolutely does. That he wants that. There's nothing. He loves social media attention more than he loves his own children. I guarantee. Like there's nothing Greg Locke wants more.
I wonder how many followers he has. I'm gonna look while we discuss.
Greg Locke, how many followers Greg Locke has right now? I remember he mentioned in some video, and this is like 4 years ago. I think the video I saw. And he had 1.5 million Facebook followers or subscribers. I don't know where he's at these days, but I imagine. I actually haven't seen a lot from him lately. Have you?
No, but I'm not on a lot.
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot from him. Or
he has 226,000 followers on Instagram. I don't know if he has a TikTok. The wild. I don't even know. Okay.
Yeah.
6,000.
What I also liked is him talking about. He said, "Yeah, this is another conspiracy one that I like. The mask conspiracy. Because look, it's one thing if you want to have a discussion on the efficacy of masks, especially like regular cloth masks, like the ones that aren't what an N95 mask, and how effective they are in actually blocking viruses, because they're not super effective, and it's better than nothing, but not as effective as a lot of people like to think. Whereas like it slows it down, but it's not. There's nothing that's foolproof. However, I like people who said that the masks were like Greg Locke said that this is. Oh no, actually, I think it's another one. Hold on, that might be another one I'm thinking about. Let me see if I can pull this up, because that might be another video where he talks about this. But what you'll hear a lot of people say is that the masks aren't about actually stopping the spread of the disease. The masks are just like it's a test to see how compliant you are. Have you heard that, Kai?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, this is the one I was thinking
People
of.
should just be able to live their best lives.
What was that?
I just think people should be able to do whatever brings them joy. Oh.
I'm not bowing down. I'm not in compliance. I am in utter defiance of this. Listen, I'll go to jail over this situation. It is the golden calf. I'm sick of Christians saying things like this. Well, it's just a mask. You know what they used to say? Oh, it's just a baby. It's just a zygote. It's just a growth in the mother's womb. So let's kill it. No, it's not just a mask. It's a compliance device. This is not about safety. This is about surrendering of our rights. Can I remind you, this is still the United States of America. This is not communism. This is not China. This ain't North Korea. I don't live in Haiti. I don't live some other country somewhere where I'm under the guise of communism and socialism. This is the United States of America. Y'all hear me? Trump 2020.
Okay, that was actually the one I was thinking of. And it actually dovetails right into the other one too. But this idea that, I know, right? That this idea that masks are this test that the government wants to see how compliant you are. They want to see if you'll do what they tell you to do. It's like, folks, you will. You will. You know why? Because you already do. Like, listen, the government knows where you live. It knows where you were born. It knows where you work. It knows your birthday. It has a specific number assigned to you. It knows where you went to school. The government knows who you're fucking. They know everything about you. Like, the government,
Yes.
the police can kill you for any reason, anytime they feel like it, and a court will exonerate them because all a cop has to say is, I felt my life was in danger. That's it. Like, it works 99% of the time, and the cop will be exonerated. It happens all the time. The United States Army, the United States military, like, imposes its will at the point of a gun on 800 military bases around the planet. And like, and listen, and you still pay your taxes every year like a good little fucking citizen. You still do it. You still do it. And so, you know, like, people talk about the government, oh, if it comes tyrannical, already is. And like, they don't need to do a test of making you wear a mask, see how compliant you are. They already know you're compliant. They already fucking know.
Well,
So
it's like the I was listening to a podcast the other day and it was talking about like how much data the government actually has on you.
yeah,
Because when you agree to all these apps and stuff, like, people don't actually read the terms and conditions, and you don't actually like know what you're agreeing to. And I think it's Google. There's one big conglomerate. I can't remember the name, but they were saying that like every night at like 2 a.m. your phone does like a data dump, like to the like big tech company that like whichever one it is. I can't remember if it's Meta. I can't remember if it's Google. I'll have to find it. But it was talking about how like every night at 2 a.m. it does a whole data dump of like what was your search history, like things that were talked about, like blah blah blah. Like, if you think that like the masks are going to be the undoing, then like I need you to be a little more caught up on like the blob.
Right? Like a universe in which the government enacted like the Patriot Act, you know, to find out everything you've done. Yeah, trust me, the mask, they already know who's compliant and who's not. They already know. You're listening to this, you're compliant. And this one isn't necessarily the government, but what you said about the go ahead, sorry.
And no, you're right. Because sure, you can say the mask is like a compliance thing. No one's actually making you wear one. I mean, like, sure, if you want to take commercial aircraft, or at least it used to,
I know. Yeah.
or whatever, but like, I lived in Italy during the pandemic and they made you wear masks. Like, I lived in Italy during the pandemic and they made us not leave our houses. And then I would see my American friends complaining that they were recommended something. And I was like, do you have to wait in line outside to go to the grocery store? Or do you have to carry paperwork on you to prove that you have to go to work because you're mission essential? No, because I do. And so, like, if you think that masks are like the undoing of your freedom,
Americans are the biggest
regardless of how you feel about the topic, regardless of how you feel about the topic and the efficacy of masks.
Right. They're the biggest fucking babies.
Single point.
Yeah, they can't. It's like Americans, like, they talk about the lockdowns as if we had like a year or so. There was like a month or two where you could actually say we actually shut shit down. But that was by state, by the way. It wasn't even like in all 50 states where you couldn't get a haircut. A lot of places, like, you had to work from home, or like when you're shopping, you had a sign that said, please wear a mask and everything. Though you couldn't get a haircut. That was something. But it's like, people went through like 3 months of inconvenience and they still haven't stopped complaining about it. You had to some places made you bring like if you went to like a concert, they're like, yeah, we need to make sure you're vaccinated before you come into this arena of thousands of people. And like, no, and the riot in the street it is just like they're the biggest babies on planet Earth.
They really are, because as someone who lived overseas in a country that was so strict, I can tell you firsthand that Americans had no idea how good they had it.
Right?
I got yelled at by the Carabinieri one time for being on my porch by myself.
What are they called?
Back in your house, and I was
who?
like, the Italian police. I was like, what? But I'm outside by myself. Okay. And Americans want to be like, rare. And I'm like, no one's actually forcing you. Like, I have to carry paperwork to prove that I'm allowed. Like, they had checkpoints. Like, you couldn't even go, like, do anything without having been vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at least in the U.S., you had more of a choice. You didn't really if you lived in Europe, regardless of how you feel about it. Personal freedom. Like, whatever you want to say. Like, so my point isn't getting into that. My point is, like, if you think masks were, like, the undoing, good Lord. Like,
I know. It's like, it's, well, first I want to say,
fucking mask. Don't wear it.
I love that. Well, they would say that, Costco makes me wear one. All right. Costco also had options where you could order it and they bring it outside to you. Like there was a contingency. If you didn't want to wear a mask, you could be just fine. But no, they just like, you know what it is? It's just selfishness. Americans can't imagine sacrificing for the greater good. We've lost that. It is gone. Like it is just like, oh, this doesn't benefit me. Fuck you. It's not happening.
And they
just
just want to complain all the time.
They do just want to complain.
They have no idea how good they have it.
I know. It's just so wild.
And it's always the people who have never traveled outside the U.S. that want to complain. And you're like,
yes, it's like fucking small business owners. And like people are just wanting it. Like your life is fine. And yeah, you're right. Because like you've been in Asia. I don't know, like at flu season, like in Japan and China, everyone just wears a mask because it's go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Like no one complains about it. It's just it's just the way of life. Yeah,
it's kind of like a poisonous result of our like cult of individualism, which was like it's Americans, like when it was first settled, like it was like a frontier and stuff. And so everyone, like we've passed down this every man for themselves type of mentality. And it's pretty toxic to building a society. Like, because when everyone is only thinking about them and not their neighbors, it's kind of dangerous. And I want to say real quick before I forget, I do love the name of foreign police forces. I love them. Foreign police forces have really cool names, like the Federales and the Gendarmes and
Italian police have like 5 different kinds.
Oh, interesting.
They have like the Carabinieri, then they have like their own version of the FBI, and they have their own special forces that are like the marshals / like SWAT. The Germans have what, the Polizei?
Yeah, police. Yeah, some of the Z in there. I don't know how to say it. Yeah.
Oh, and they're intense.
Yeah, well, it's German. I mean, the language itself is just terrifying. It's just like it's such a scary language. Before I even knew who Hitler was, like as a kid, German was a scary ass language. Like whenever I heard the Germans talk, it always scared me. And I can't believe that English is related to German, because like English is a decent sounding language, but German is horrifying. But with the terms and conditions, did you hear that news story? This isn't the government, but did you hear that news story earlier this year where this lady went to Disney World and she told, like, there was a restaurant there and she told them that she had an allergy to like shellfish or something. And she said,
and they said you couldn't sue us. And her husband died. Is this what you're talking about? Was it her or her husband?
No,
someone
it was
died.
her. It was. So she died and her husband sued Disney. He tried
because of your Hulu conditions.
Yes, because the terms and conditions. Yes. And so, they said that since you clicked yes on your Disney Plus terms and conditions, that you have absolved. By the way, they didn't even buy it. It was like for a free trial, which is very funny. They didn't even buy it. But the terms and conditions said that, we are released from liability. And this got national exposure. And so Disney had to back down from it. But if it didn't get national exposure, they'd have gotten away with it. And this is to my point here that I think we have outgrown this ridiculous terms and conditions stuff. It's ridiculous. Do you read them? No. Do I read them? No. No one does, because it doesn't fucking matter. Like, you need to use the product, right? You need to click. No one knows what they say. They could write in there, well, give us your firstborn child. You would click it, and no one reads it. So it's like,
you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. So if no one actually reads these things, why do we bother having them in the first place? Like, I think you could make a decent legal case that if these are useless and you can't operate in society without clicking them, they need to go away. Like, they need to. You either need to simplify it so people can actually read it and understand what they're clicking, but showing this endless wall of unreadable text that everyone will scroll through and click yes on, ridiculous. Ridiculous. I think it needs to go away.
TikTok's the scariest one, and that's all I'll say on that.
Which one?
TikTok.
What are the terms and conditions say on TikTok?
I don't know about the terms of TikTok. I just the amount of data that you agree to from TikTok and the other things it does to other devices.
Is it any different than Instagram and Facebook? I imagine they're all the same. I just
we'll powwow about this later.
Oh, okay. Why not? Why was it something we can't say in public? I mean, I don't know.
No,
why so in the
army, you down the rabbit hole of whatever.
I don't know. In the army, we had this. So in the army, there was at least in the beginning, we couldn't have TikTok on our phones. I think, the government phones. I think they eventually did allow it, but they didn't allow TikTok. No, they still don't. They still don't.
Not on government devices.
Okay, so and so they had it with TikTok, they had it with Snapchat, and they had it with there may have been others. I can't recall, but I don't know. To me, it's my data is literally everywhere, always has been. I'm just the Chinese government does not need to look far to find my shit. So if they want to, they already have it. That's what I'm saying. It's I don't worry about that shit because it's out there. If they want to buy it from somebody, they can. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm in the same boat everybody else.
Technology is just weird.
It is,
There's so much that people don't know about it, and they just agree to it, and it's
right. Okay. Yeah, it's you
don't want to say that they that governments are spy states, but
oh, they are.
The amount of data that people can get. Yeah, I know. You'll say anything.
No, really, I'll say it. I mean, because.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd even deny it. I mean, if you like the NSA, if our NSA, briefing has it, what was that?
Oh, I just said it's insane. I'm listening to you. I'm agreeing.
Yeah. By the way, this is the shit that they tell you. That's the thing too. This is just what they admit to. So if you know that that's what they admit to, the reality is a lot worse. So yeah, I stopped worrying about that a long fucking time ago. It's
100%.
Yeah, and if they if it's also this overwhelming what do they call it in a minority report, an orgy of evidence, that it's also so much shit that it's actually hard to sift through. If they really want to fight, they got the work to find it, and it's not like I'm a high value target or anything. And plus, there are plenty of other high value targets, same position we're in. But yeah, Greg Locke is a weird dude, and he's just a symbol of how. As much as I didn't like although he says he's broke off from the AFB movement, he's Global Church Alliance, I think he's in or something. It seems pretty similar to me. Yeah, it seems pretty similar to me. And he's an extreme example of how far this movement has gone, because people like that existed when we were kids. They were there, but now they're getting lots of public exposure, which I don't think, but I more or less know is not just bad for the country, but honestly, it's bad for Christianity. I think it gives the movement a bad name. I don't know about you.
It just makes all Christians look like they're nuts, and that they're wild and I don't like him, but it's okay. It just probably means that you and I are witches, TJ.
Well, if I were, I'd have a lot cooler shit. I would be using these abilities. If you know what, so honestly, this has nothing to do with, we may not keep this in the show or whatever, but I have this theory about superpowers, and that if anyone actually had superpowers, they would be
use them.
Well, you'd use them. I think you'd be a villain. I think anyone you give superpowers to, all 8 billion of us, any random, would be a villain eventually. And I know I would. I certainly would. Now, I wouldn't want to be one, but I just look at it this way, that I have lied, I've cheated, I've taken advantage of people, I've advanced my interest at the expense of someone else's when I didn't have to. And just like everybody else has, right? I've done that. Now, you're telling me if I had more power, I'd do that less? Fuck no. I do it a hell of a lot more. Like, if there were fewer people who could stop me, of course I would. And I'm not saying I would be like, like a mass murderer or anything like that, but no, I would use my powers. I'd use them for good, but I use them for evil too. Because that's how I'm that way with no superpowers. I'm gonna be worse with superpowers. And so, like, I love like politics and government and shit like that. But there need to be strong checks on every possible power position, because if history's taught us anything, is that when humans can exploit their power, they absolutely will, no matter who they are. Yeah, you can't let them do it. You need to have definite checks in there. That's my theory on superpowers, at least.
That's fantastic. I'm here for it.
Yeah, this is fun shit.
I wish we did have superpowers.
Now, if we all had superpowers, that'd be cool. But then nobody would have superpowers. That would just be people. That's just be how we were. But we'd be stronger. But all right, we'll wrap this episode up here. Any last thoughts, Ty, on Greg Locke, the moon landing, or superpowers?
I just think he's wild. I don't think that he accurately presents Christians. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. He irritates me, and I wish I had a superpower.
Which one would you pick?
Oh, which superpower?
Yeah. If you want to think about it, because I already have my answer. Mine is invulnerability. That's the answer I go with. Because a lot of people go with flight, boring, first off. And also, I had a dream once that I could fly, and it was terrifying because this is how literal my brain works. It's so stupid. But I was flying, but I didn't have wings. So I couldn't slow myself down. I just kept getting faster and faster in the sky because I had no way to slow myself down. Terrifying. And then I couldn't land either because I didn't have I wasn't super durable, meaning I would just hit the ground at 400 miles an hour and die. So I was just stuck in the air. It was terrifying. So but a lot of people choose super strength, which is cool and all. But if you have super strength, but you don't have super invulnerability, you're just going to break your bones when you try to pick up a car. Congratulations, picked up the car, but your bones can't handle that much strength. So I choose invulnerability. I jump off a building and I won't get hurt. I get hit by a bullet. I don't get hurt. So that's the one that I would pick. Although not immortality. I still need to be able to die because I don't want to be around after the heat death of the universe. And I'm just floating around eternal darkness. Yeah, no thanks. So that's what I would pick.
I think I would do. Can being invisible be a superpower?
Well, it can. Huh?
Because that's what I would pick.
So here's the issue. I'm such a nerd. This is so dumb. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm going to ruin invisibility. I'm ruin invisibility for everybody.
Don't ruin it. No.
I'm going to ruin it. Here we go. So for invisibility to work. So invisibility means that the light is not reflecting off of you, so nobody can see you. It's like passing right through you, basically. Or it's bending in a way that you're clear, like Predator or something. The problem with that is that means it's not entering your eyes either. It's either going around your eyes or through your eyes, which means you're blind, which means you can't see. So you're invisible. Yeah, that's what it means. Because if the light does not reflect off your cornea and to go into your brain, you won't see anything. Unless I guess your eyes can be visible and the rest of you is invisible. But if you want to see, you can't be invisible. So that's I don't make the rules about. I'm sorry. That's
the amount of thought that you've put into this. I'm very impressed.
I didn't think of this. I read this somewhere, and so I wish I could take credit for that, but I hadn't thought of it. It's oh, that's true. That is how light works. I do ruin these things a lot. I remember this one kid I saw playing Star Wars or something, and he had a laser blaster in his hand. He was shooting it. I was like, well, photons don't have mass, so there would be no recoil on a laser gun. So you would just be, you wouldn't have to do the recoil thing because it's not a bullet. It's just light. So yeah, I'm here to ruin that shit for you guys. This is what I'm here for. But
we appreciate you.
No problem. I'll be here all day.
Oh, good.
All right, I'll catch you guys later before I ruin some more shit.